Hello there, everybody. It's Golf Weekly coming at you. This is our watch-along. I guess we can't really call it a watch-along. For much longer, podcast on a Sunday morning. Better description. We'll find a catchier title. Fionn Davenport home eventually from Tenerife. Oh my God, we've just been hearing about your ordeal. You were caught up in all that nonsense, that business for 24 hours. Yikes.
Yeah, I was meant to come home Friday night, so I was at the airport in Tenerife, and we were queuing to check in, and everyone was in great form. Great week's holiday, I think everyone had in the sun. And then the TUI rep calls all the Dublin flight out and says, sorry, your flight's been cancelled. So we spent 4 hours in the airport waiting for them to tell us what was next. The flight was leaving the next day. We were all going to get a hotel that night. And then at about 12:30, they said, sorry, listen, there's 3 flights been cancelled. We've got hundreds and hundreds of passengers and we just don't have hotel rooms for everybody. So there's a frantic kind of, some people managed to scramble and book a hotel on booking.com, including me. But the bulk of everyone else just ended up sleeping in the airport, and then found out yesterday that the flight's not going out until Monday. So I ended up booking 2 other flights. And anyway, lo and behold, I walked in the door at 3 a.m. last night.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow.
Sorry you asked, Joe.
Yeah. I was hoping for a snappier. Yeah, but we're back now. I was doing my intros here. I'll try and pick up the momentum again. Peter Lowry, hello to you.
Hello, Joe.
And Nathan Murphy, looks like you got out of Troon just in time. That was miserable yesterday.
Oh my God. I was looking at it throughout the afternoon going, if you were there, you would not leave the media centre for the entire day. There'd be players coming in for interview and you'd be thinking, nah, I think I'll just sit this one out.
Yeah, really, really horrific. So this is like the strangest, most disconcerting Sunday leaderboard at a major I can really remember, in that I've watched a lot of this tournament and I haven't really seen many of these guys. It's just the vagaries of the draw, the vagaries of open golf. So we have Billy Horschel on -4 as our leader. Now, we saw plenty of Billy yesterday. It was really amazing couple of hours of golf. We'll come back to that in a moment. Billy Horschel is our leader on 4 under after all is said and done. And then Tristan Lawrence, 3 under. They go out at 225. So, I mean, Tristan, we hardly knew you or know you, is the truth this tournament. Sam Burns and Russell Henley, again, I feel every 40 minutes I saw a Russell Henley putt. It's kind of how this tournament feels. So they're on 3 under, Sam Burns, Russell Henley. And then suddenly Xander Schauffele on 3 under. His name is looming very large. Out of nowhere, really. He didn't feel like a huge factor in this tournament. And then Justin Rose, who did, I suppose, again, if you were watching yesterday, is on 3 under. And then Dan Brown, to his immense credit, held on yesterday. Qualifier, 28 years of age. Never been in this kind of scenario before, but was really good under the circumstances. So he's on 3 under. And then Scotty Scheffler, he's having one of those can't hold a putt weeks. Scotty on 2 under. And then Shane Lowry all the way back. -1, he'll go out with Adam Scott, which maybe is a nice calm pairing. Nice calm demeanor alongside him today. Steady Adam Scott, who's uneven. We did figure, I think in the preview we mentioned, he should go well. So what a weird scenario, fellas. I mean, it's not like a bad thing necessarily. Unpredictable sport is the best kind. But does anyone else have this odd feeling that this tournament was just kind of put into a blender yesterday and it's unrecognizable all of a sudden?
Well, that's exactly what happened, isn't it? Because when you look at Russell Henley, who was on an awful lot of that early coverage, and Tristan Lawrence in and around lunchtime, more or less before the leaders were going off, and we see this all the time. Someone goes on a run on a Saturday, and then particularly on a course like this, they fade rapidly on the back 9, and you think they're almost going to be in irrelevance. They're just here as filler until the good stuff happens a little bit later on. And the forecast was obviously due to change, but it felt as though nobody expected it to get quite as miserable as it did and as difficult. And suddenly Tristan Lawrence and Russell Henley and Sam Burns, who, remember where Sam Burns was in round 1, he was going home, suddenly become massive factors. So much so when you look at those final 2 pairings, and if you were waking up and you didn't see any of the golf and you just looked at the final 2 pairings and you saw Billy Horschel, Tristan Lawrence, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, you'd probably think, this is not what I was looking for. But just below that in the 3 or 4 pairings that will go out in advance of them is absolutely stacked. And yesterday was just so enjoyable. God, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, there's moments definitely where you're looking at it going, is this fair? Is this what an Open Championship be? Is this what a major should be? Is this an equal test for everybody? And it wasn't in any way an equal test for everybody. And those later groups got absolutely killed. But sitting on the couch watching this, it was like, yeah, I love it.
Coming from the player's perspective, Joe, I cringed most of the afternoon watching it. I was thinking to myself, putting myself into that position of hitting some of those tee shots.
Just wondering, have you withdrawn from the Open, or what are you thinking?
No, it was difficult, I have to admit.
Well, Lowry, to your point, so I mean, we would love to get more of your thoughts on this, because Lowry was talking about the setup, and he thinks, given the conditions that were incoming, the setup was too difficult. And I suppose we'd all have sympathy for the RNA in that they had a kind of black and white day to cater for. They couldn't just let the early starters shoot, a 62 with the later starters in mind. But Lowry was saying that it was the setup, given the conditions, too difficult. He was even talking about the 18th tee. He said, I was wondering, could I hit the fairway? It's 230 yards to the 18th fairway. Bear in mind, my driver on the 17th, which is a par 3, he hit driver, pitched 220 yards. Not much fun out there. So you thought it did cross the line, Pete, maybe? But again, it's difficult.
No, I didn't think it crossed the line.
Okay.
I don't think the RNA could have done anything in relation to course setup. I was just cringing for the fact that I was putting myself into a situation of my own game, thinking, like, what club do I hit off 11 to keep it somewhere in play? What club do you hit, off 16, 17, 18 to keep it, somewhere on the golf course? And it's links golf. Like, how many times has the other way happened where, the starters have had the worst of the draw? It's absolutely horrendous. You can't reach holes in 2. And then all of a sudden the leaders have us, calm and easy in the afternoon. So that's golf for you. That's the Open for you. It's not alone do you have to play well, but you have to get quite lucky with the draw. Look back at Lou Oosthuizen, who won in St. Andrews. He got dipped by the draw, got a lead, and, played well, of course, but the draw helped him more than his game did.
The back nine, Fionn, I don't know how much you got to see, but obviously at Killeen Castle at the end of the years, they do Black Sunday off the black tees. It's a big course. Yeah. The back nine on Sunday was like watching us play Black Sunday at Killeen Castle, in that they would hit their Sunday best drive and then sometimes driver off the deck, or certainly a 3-wood, and hope to be somewhere within 100 yards of the green and try and get up and down.
I am, once again, I've been reminded of it again this year. Obviously, because if you have, I didn't get to see a lot of it on TV yesterday because I was mid-travel, but I did get to hear a lot of it on 5 Live with a trusty VPN on my phone. And I mean, look, it echoes everything you said. But I don't think there's a sense of like, I don't have an issue with any of it at all. Like, you feel for like, that kind of early, late, like Sam Burns goes out early, posts a decent score, the horrific weather goes from kind of to horrendous. But as Pete said, that's how it is. And look, and to Larry's point, I mean, Larry definitely struggled on that back nine, but like, look, out of the postage, out of the coffin bunker, like, he washed it into the fescue and had a double there, and it all started to kind of unravel from the 8th for him. So what happened, he may absolutely have a point that it was just like finding fairway became the biggest challenge of all. But he actually did find a lot of fairways over the course of the round yesterday.
He played really well up until
really well.
The 8th. I mean, Paul McGinley did a really incisive insert into the analysis where he showed several of Larry's missed putts, and he missed them all left. And his analysis was the greens are a touch slower today. You have to give an extra little tiny, teeny bit more hit, and that's where the right hand can take over a touch and you close the club face a touch and hence a pull. And they were all pulls. But I mean, I would say, Nathan, first 7 holes in complete control. I think basically every green in regulation, and had several good looks at birdie, not much dropped. And then the 8th kind of came like a whammy almost out of nowhere.
I honestly thought for the first 6, 7 holes, this is going to be Port Rush all over again, that he's going to end up 4, 5, 6 shots clear, because he was just in total control off the tee. In what were at that stage difficult conditions already, he just seemed to be playing such smart, sensible, controlled golf. And all right, he wasn't holding the putts that he was on the previous day. It felt that the rest of his game was in such good shape that he would eventually start holding them again. But then, I'd say last night was a difficult night in the Lowry household, because if you think back to Friday and what happened on 11 and how he responded to that, and how, he took the 20 minutes to take the shot, he did everything right, he composed himself. He dropped a couple of shots, but over the rest of the round managed to keep it together. The frustration really seemed to get to him on the back 9. And listen, how could it not? They're doing things that are completely unnatural to them. There's no way to prep for what they had to do there. Like, where do you even go to start hitting driver on a par 3? Like, you have to pick a certain day at a certain time at a certain course to prep for that. So listen, maybe that's the true test of golf, is that you're having to do things that you wouldn't normally have to do. But the flip from I didn't foresee in any way, as he's standing on the 8th tee, that the score he ended up with was a 78 in the end, would be the score for Shane Lowry, because even though it was there and you knew there was always the possibility because of how tough it was going, he just looked in such control.
Well, I think, interestingly, that point of doing things that you haven't practiced or that you're not routinely doing, that's almost where you think, God, that really plays into Lowry's skill set. God, driver off a par 3, we haven't practiced this. It might be one of those I'd almost pick first if you gave me open season amongst any of the fraternity out there. Certainly, my read on it, Peter, and you'd be the best, I think, to give us a sense, but not going well on the greens, that can bother Shane. He's keenly aware of how he's putting early on in rounds. I think he's said that much himself, that he can sometimes decide on the first green, it's not going to be one of those days. Now, I'm not saying that happened yesterday, but he's on record as saying that does feed into his game. Then what happens on 8, that he was in such a different headspace, it struck me, to all the others on that back 9. Like, Billy Horschel is in his t-shirt. Like, he could not be happier, because for the rest of the guys, the tournament has just come back into them. Whereas Lowry is dealing with both the conditions and, oh my God, I've just given away such a stranglehold of this tournament. And I think, like, I don't know, is it like a loss of composure, would you say, or just a bit frazzled? But, when he was wiping some of those drives way right, having on the front 9 hit that squeezy cut, all controlled beautifully, it looked like a guy who just needed a reset. He needed to go and get an ice bath for an hour, process that he was no longer the leader, and then come out and play the back 9. It was almost like he just, having lost his big lead in the tournament, the last thing he could deal with then was the adversity and the patience required on the back 9.
Joe, I totally agree with you. I think he lost his composure, simple as, and he didn't get it back. He was shouting at the gallery. He was shouting at people to get off the fairway every time he hit a bad shot. His attitude changed. If you look back on the coverage there on 8, when he hit it into the bunker, where the bunker had to be either raked or not raked. Yeah. And it was like a big decision. And yeah, it was all right. It was, he kind of, that's where his attitude changed, I think. And that was even before he hit his second shot. And then he compounded those errors going forward. Now, he did have a chance on 10. He got a flyer out of the rough on 10. Remember, he hit it into about 15 feet. And he had a good birdie opportunity there, which he missed left. Yeah. And that probably would have settled him down considerably. But he did lose his composure. We saw it earlier on in the week with Marcel Siem. He got off to a flyer start on Friday. He got up to the leaderboard. He got to, I think, 2-3 under, having had an average day on Thursday, and then just whittled the shots away, coming back with bad attitude. And I think Shane's bad attitude has really cost him into this position as we speak.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you can understand it. Like, what a killer to be in control of the tournament for so long, and then for it to just blow up so quickly and then get hit with that wind and that rain. And it's very understandable. I'll come to some of your comments. Obviously, fire them in. No particular order. James is gaming TV. Does anyone think Billy Ho will hold his nerve today? I mean, distinct possibility. Shout out to Lawrence Donegan's I can't see an American winner forecast. That's no. This would be, by the way, we're a good All-American to do it, the first time since 1982 that we would have 4 American winners of the men's majors. 83 was Seve at the Masters, 84 Seve at the Open, 85 we're into Langer at the Masters, Sandy Lyle Open, Greg Norman 86 at the Open, and then we're into the Faldo era, and on we go. So 82, the last time we would have 4 Americans. I know we're all Lowry fans. Can you discuss his comments on the course, setup, criticism of the RNA, or his frustrations justified? I think we've done that. Tom Doughton, do we want Billy Ho to win? Billy Horschel.
I think if it's not Lowry, I think if it's not Shane Lowry, absolutely, you'd love to see Billy Horschel win. Spoke with Billy Horschel at the Irish Open last year, and just really interesting guy. Gave a really interesting interview and his thoughts on the game and how American-centric it has been, and the fact that he was coming over and he was spending a lot of time playing in Europe, and he came to play the Irish Open. He played at Wentworth. That the fact that any World Tour he was very much in support of, was a little bit disgusted, like all of us are, of the way money has overtaken the game and how it was destroying him. Just really thoughtful guy. And obviously he's been through a hell of a lot off the course, on the course as well. Like we've seen, some of his post-round interviews in the last couple of years where the game has just deserted him completely. Has come through, as I say, off the course issues as well. And just somebody I've liked watching for the last sort of 10, 12 years in the way he handled himself, the way he plays the game. And yeah, you'd love to see him hang on in there. And you definitely don't want this to be a day where, he bottles it and he goes out and hits a big score. But it is, in a lot of ways, uncharted territory. You have a brilliant interview last night, saying just that this is sort of a lifetime's work to get into this position. I think he'd be a very, very popular winner if he can get the job done. But obviously there's the the West Ham connection, and just the fact he seems to have taken this part of the world to his heart, and he's played unbelievably good golf in every way. Like I don't think he's had a double bogey at any stage, which he must be one, if not the only player who hasn't had a really big number yet. Played brilliantly on Friday, and then yesterday, the way he scrambled, like his ability out of the bunkers at times on the back nine yesterday, were almost all the shots of the day, maybe with the exception of Scheffler on 17, seemed to be coming from Horschel in the most difficult of the conditions. And Horschel and Rose both seemed to play that back nine with a smile on their face. It was, again, different from Lowry, who, as you say, the frustration just got the better of him. Both of those seemed to be like, listen, this is what it is, and we're right there. Let's embrace it.
He's 8 for 8 from the bunkers. Hasn't 3-putted once all week. So he's been playing really consistently. Hit 10 greens yesterday. Conversely, the other thing, he's had 42 major starts and he's only had 1 top 5 finish. So he's in new territory for him, and I see his quote afterwards: "I've worked my entire life to be in this position." I mean, you and everybody else who's on the PGA Tour, but listen, I agree with Nathan. I think there's something quite thoughtful and attractive about him. I think the tears from, was it a year ago, where he was it felt so like he was broken.
He shot 86, didn't he?
That's right. And afterwards was just, and very honest in his interview. And so look, redemption is one of the great storylines, and the idea of like a guy who got so low to be now within, I won't say touching distance, but close enough to a major is pretty impressive. Here's one.
He did finish top 10 in the PGA. Sorry, Fiona, I was going to say he did finish top 10 in the PGA this year, and also he's won 8 times on the PGA.
Oh yeah, Tour. No, sorry. Absolutely.
He's won big tournaments. He's won Memorial. He beat Scotty Scheffler in the final of the World Match Play. Now, it was Scotty Scheffler of 3 years ago, so not quite the same thing. Beat Jason Day in a playoff when he won the Byron Nelson. When he won the Tour Championship and he won the 10 million quid, you know, he finished ahead of McIlroy and Furyk at the time at the peak of his powers. So he's, you know, it doesn't feel like he's going to be afraid of this.
No, sorry, you're absolutely right. What I meant is just simply in majors. He doesn't have, like, you know, there's not a lot of form in majors. But you're right, he's a serious player. You were saying is that would be the first time since what, 1982 there'd be oh my God, the dog has just come in. Do you know, if Justin Rose were to win, okay, it would be the first Englishman since 1895 to win the Open. Like, I just saw that stat and I was like, what?
What about Nick Faldo, Sandy Lyle?
Well, Sandy Lyle is Scottish.
Faldo.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Faldo. Yeah. Apologies. Oops.
He's probably not the only one. There's got to be loads of other English people who won it. No. Did you get to sleep in this 24 hours in that airport?
Not much. No.
Can I echo everything?
Sorry, it was wrong anyway. So let's just move on from it. I guess.
Did you know, guys? There's actually, you can pay for, it's expensive, but there's actually a boat ride through Rays Creek that I really want to get.
Assholes.
I echo everything you said on Billy Horschel. I've always found him so likable. And the short game yesterday, was it at 17 where he basically had no shot in the bunker and he just jumped in and it was all wrists and arms and just very few packed and just got it out quick and double quick time. Amazing shot. So he played so well. Putter has been an Achilles heel, but I was at the K Club and followed him for a couple of holes, and obviously he's, you know, slightly exotic creature at an Irish Open, so there was a gal who was interested in him, and I was walking around with a couple of journalists and we just caught him on various occasions stopping and talking to fans, which like just doesn't happen at a tournament. He was beyond gracious. We were blown away by how lovely he was. I mean, really, really nice fella, and not doing it with a camera 3 feet from him, you know, not, oh, I'll sign autographs, zoom in, look at this. It was just genuine and very sincere, and we were, I mean, very struck by him, and always liked him. He's the most immaculate looking man. I mean, he's like a doll, really. It's like he gets his haircut every 3 to 4 days, always clean shaven, a perfect 10% flat body fat throughout his life, clothes immaculate. Just, I look at Billy, I'm like, do you ever, you know, have a Domino's night? I mean, do you let the handbrake down? You just seem to. He strikes me as somebody who lives a very diligent lifestyle as well. I really hope he does it. I've always liked him, and I think he'd be kind of an appreciative winner in a real way. Like, for it to come to him at 37 after the lows, I think, you know, when Colin Morikawa wins a couple of years ago and he's, you know, doing his kind of speech, which is full of cliches and guff, that wasn't very real to me. I think Horschel winning would be real. And one last thing, he's been talking about, I don't know if he used the word manifesting, but he's in that territory. So
he did, yeah.
He did. Okay. He has spent the week going to bed every night, picturing himself lifting the trophy, being announced as the champion golfer of the year, and walking out onto the 18th green and doing all of those things. And you know what? It's funny. We all do it in golf sometimes, whereby that's such a good mental thing to do. And when you're doing those things in golf, you wonder then when you don't do them, God, why didn't I do that for this tournament? I forgot to do it. And he's, you know, Phil Mickelson, when he won the PGA, closing his eyes, all zen. He doesn't do that anymore. But for that week, he was just in that zone. And I always think it's very interesting when a golfer gets in that zone. And in 6 months' time, when he's not manifesting anymore, he'll be thinking, why I forgot to manifest before bed? But he's doing it now, and I think that counts for something.
Joe, as I've said before, it's the honeymoon phase.
But a good time to be in a honeymoon, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
So give us your thoughts on Billy Horschel.
Oh, I think he approached yesterday brilliantly. He structured his swing fabulously. He did nothing that I could see wrong yesterday. He approached every shot, worked on it a little bit on his technique, if you look at his backswing that he keeps on working on, and then just trusted every shot that he played. He does have a funny putting style, I have to admit. He kind of creeps up on it and gives it a whack. And which is unusual, you know, in this day and age for tour. You know, everybody's pretty structured the way they put. But to be fair to him, you know, he put it brilliantly. He holed out excellently, especially in the wind and the rain. But he embraced the day. He embraced it, and he had a good partner in it. Like Justin Rose did the exact same thing. Both of them embraced the conditions. They knew exactly, if we can get around here and level par, we've done wonderfully well. And he was right. And, as you say, he's a nice guy, comes across as a really nice guy. I haven't heard any bad stories about him whatsoever. Like, you know what I mean? He's behind the scenes. He's not the nice guy as he seems in front of a camera. So, go Billy, go.
Is there something to be said, fellas, in those conditions for actually saying, well, to hell with this, I will just play in a t-shirt?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there was a few. Did Sam Burns? Was it Sam Burns who played in a t-shirt as well?
I didn't see.
He was obviously out earlier, but there was a couple of guys because they look normal. They look in their natural habitat. Whereas you say when you have the 7 different layers on, and there's just this big process of who's holding this and who's and what am I gloves slightly wet, and that actually just going like it was. I suspect it was pretty cold as well. So it's brave enough, but maybe rethink the outerwear.
I think it just speaks of an attitude as well, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm going to get cold, I'm going to get wet, irrelevant, as opposed to trying to stop the inevitable, And
Paul Lowry plays better with a rain gear jacket on him than he does with a rain gear jacket off him. So
is that because he grew up playing in rain gear so often?
Oh yeah.
Wow. The backwards hats look cool. I mean, obviously, none of us could pull it off, but I thought when they have the hats on backwards, it almost looks better. So Rose then, like, what an admirable effort this is. He's still only 43. We talk about him like he's really old. Maybe just that's his demeanor, and he's been around so long. Time. Yeah, but I've never been. I just found myself really rooting for Rose so much yesterday. There was something just so likable about the two of them out there doing their thing. I almost think, he's so full of affectations, and he's like winking. He winks too much. You shouldn't really wink in life very often. But he winks all the time, and he has a certain walk and the nods and the smile. The weather was so brutal. I think it just meant he didn't have the energy for all that nonsense, and it was just focused on task in hand, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
He seems to have a similar attitude to Faldo, but with a better persona. Let's put it that way. But he seems to be that kind of that quirky sense of humor, but well and truly able to play golf.
Yeah,
and he wears a good watch.
He sure does. I mean, were he to add an Open to his US Open, it would just.
Is it just me and you feeling left?
Yeah.
Oh. Am I gone?
Frozen.
Hello.
We got rid of Nathan there very quickly.
Yeah. Peter, I can see you. Fionn, can you see us?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. I was just making the point that obviously an Open allied to his US Open would be
that'd be amazing
for Rose. So where is he? He's only one off the lead. Yeah, 3 under.
Yeah, they're all bunched up, aren't they, at the top?
Yeah, I mean they really are. Some more comments in. Sorry, James says I wouldn't mind Billy winning. Can't see Larry coming back from where he is now, so really just want to see a good finish, good winner. Billy would be a good winner. Shooter McGavin, I'm on team Billy Ho. Should Dan Brown's caddy have been stronger in 18 and pulled that cigarette? Costly double.
So can we? There has been a tendency of late to imbue caddies with almost supernatural power, as though the caddy is the answer to all the ills that afflict a golfer. Look, Dan Brown's a smoker. As an ex-smoker, I don't know if any of you ever smoked, but as an ex-smoker, like the great lie, of course, of smoking is that smoking relaxes you. It doesn't, but you convince yourself that it does. So if you're lighting up a cigarette because in your head you need to take those drags to just stay calm, and the caddy is going to snatch it out of your mouth, it's going to make you so annoyed.
Yeah,
it just seems such a mental idea that it's just yeah, sure. Don't get in the way of a man and his cigarette.
Well, look, the placebo effect must kick in.
Absolutely. Of course it does.
for the millionth time, Lowry's temperament let him down. His Shooter McGavin's take on things. Steve Mitchell, so tough watching Shane yesterday. The win today means the likes of Scotty and Xander don't have their normal PGA advantage. Oh, I think those two do, to be fair.
I agree. I think they do.
After we recorded on on Wednesday, I went out and followed Schauffele, Morikawa, Cantlay. We're all playing together. I think it was with Kurt Kitayama. They were just behind Harrington and Lowry, and ended up following that group for 6 or 7 holes, and went straight in and back Xander Schauffele afterwards, because he just seemed to be loving it. Like, you know what, when they're playing the practice rounds and they're dropping 7, 8, 9 balls down behind the greens in the runoff areas, throwing it into the thick rough, every single one he was putting within 3-4 feet, seemed to just love the challenge. And again, his ball striking is so impressive. Alongside Morikawa, there's not much difference between the two of them when they're standing in the middle of the fairway. But you could just see Schauffele look like he was in a really, really good place. Like, absolutely loving the crowds, loving the challenge. And his short game was just impeccable. And, you know, he's sort of hung in there so far this week. You kind of keep thinking he's just going to drop off. He's made a few mistakes here and there. So I don't know what the weather is. Whatever it is about Troon, they seem to really struggle with getting the forecast exactly right. But watching it and over the last hour or so, like it looks like it's not as miserable as yesterday, but it looks cold and dreary. And now whether the wind picks up again, we'll see.
I mean, the forecast that I saw just before coming on here is that they're looking for like 13-mile-an-hour wind with gusts maybe up to 20, very small chance of rain. So not horrible, but
a factor.
You know, yeah.
Somebody, Bowman 33, very good question for Peter. This is in relation to Shane, I suppose, and what happened to him around the 8th and then beyond. How did you handle it in those times in your career where, having been in contention, you found the round progressively slipping away?
Oh, it happened to me many times. And sometimes it just takes one shot to kind of get you back, or a hole of putt, or a turn of faith, you know, with a bounce here or there. But then sometimes it just keeps on going and there's nothing you can do. It just, you know, that reset button is just not there. It just doesn't exist. And I always found it quite difficult, you know, to find something to stop it. But as I said, sometimes it's out of your control. It's a bounce of a ball, or it's a putt that lips in, and then all of a sudden you're away. Another time, though, is when the caddy steps in and goes, you know, right, a bit like Rory and JP at that time, when he pulled Rory aside and he said, you know, you're Rory effing McIlroy, you know, come on. And sometimes that's what you need, you know, that kind of kick up the arse to say, stop being down on yourself. And right, let's try and change the narrative here, and let's try and, you know, make it an easy par, or you know, or give ourselves the chance for birdie or whatever, and stop worrying about the OB or the bushes on the left or the right, and, you know, take it from there.
See, I would almost be certain at some stage between 8 and 13 or 14, as they were sensing trouble, big trouble, one of them said to the other, Lowry may have even said it to Darren Reynolds. It is Darren, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I guarantee you one of them would have said, listen, we'd have been in this spot on Thursday. But if you don't feel it, and Shane, he's such an interesting case study in that he would argue that he needs to be a little bit revved up to do his best stuff. And maybe that's true. But then obviously, if you're going to be somebody that goes with your emotions, when the bad stuff happens, if you're not practiced at almost living a little bit beneath the surface, it's probably hard to just suddenly detach. You are going to feel sick at the situation, and you're breaking almost the habit of a lifetime then to be like serene about it.
I think in fairness to Shane as well, obviously a lot has been made about his comments after the round. When you watch the interview, like, his first line is, look, I've just walked off the 18th green, I haven't dropped a shot. Like, I'm not in a good headspace to be answering these questions. I'll think differently when I get back home tonight. And, you know, he's only 3 shots off the lead. Again, go back to what you just said, that when he wakes up this morning, it'll be, if this had gone a different way and you were told you'd be 3 shots off the lead heading into a difficult enough day that should suit you down to the ground, you'd be happy enough. But yeah, I wonder, it did feel as though the energy had gone out of him. What you were talking about, that spark of what the commentators and what we were seeing on the first 6-7 holes, which is all of this is, he's loving this. Like, you know, the Billy Horschels of the world aren't going to like this, but Shane Lowry is where it's not about being perfect. It's just about getting it done. But yeah, he looked, and maybe it was slow, and it was bloody verging on impossible at times. The more you see those tee shots in 10 and 11 in those sort of conditions, it's just ridiculously difficult, and things got away from him a little bit. But he's 3 shots off the lead.
No, I mean, you just hope that everyone around him and he himself are just saying that to him repeatedly last night over dinner. Pass the salt. Okay, but you're 3 shots off the lead. You're 3 shots off. Like, almost you got to get yourself back up to that equilibrium. Billy Horschel looks a lot like Steve-O from Jackass. He's way better looking than Steve-O from Jackass. That's a shocking comment, I think. Tony Jacklin, 1969.
Oh, listen, sure, look, that's a brain fart of all brain farts. Fouled 3 times. You know, look, I know. Sorry, I was looking
for the last 20 minutes.
I was looking for I was trying to get some detail about like the general play, and I saw that one, and it just struck me. I was like, "Holy shit, that's incredible!"
That should be a more famous statistic.
Yeah, that's the most extraordinary. That's the most unbelievable statistic I've read in months. Yeah, that had definite flavors of midnight cruises on Rays Creek about it all. Yeah.
There's a real hello fellow kids vibe off Rose's backwards baseball cap.
I mean, there is. Like,
will you be getting a big sponsor on the other side for today? In case he has
but no, you can understand why it happened, why they did it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, Rose, I don't know if you saw Rose's interviews when he qualified, and you know, it was interesting. As you say, what is he, 42? Sort of going, oh, I kind of just got into all these tournaments, and now suddenly I don't get into these tournaments, and it sort of took him a while to get his head around the fact that he has to go and he has to qualify. You sort of assume it's just going to last forever, and having that appreciation. The weird thing with Rose is his open record isn't particularly good. You sort of always assume every time you look at, you know, who you going to back. He, you know, finished second when Molinari won without, you know, I don't remember him particularly looking like he was going to win that tournament. He burst onto the scene his first ever one, but since then it's been grand for somebody of his talent and your sort of assumption that links golf. Maybe it's a bit like Rory, your assumption that links golf just suits him. You know, he hasn't been in this position for an Open Championship too often, if ever.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Paul Finn says, Joe, if you can pull off the 2013 wired headphones look, you can definitely wear the cap backwards. It's funny.
Joe Malloy is a definite backwards cap wearing.
I've seen Joe Malloy wear the cap.
No, I'm partial to it.
In sunny conditions.
You are definitely,
I'm partial to it. I do like it as a look. I do. The wired headphones are coming back, actually. I think
they are.
In classic tradition that kids obviously don't want to look like older people. They've seen all of our age types walking around with earbuds, so they're gone for wired looks and pulling up their socks now just to differentiate themselves. So I'm actually down with the kids. It turns out, me and Rosie.
Yeah, you and Rosie. Yeah,
you never lost.
So, does anyone have a strong sense of who's going to win this thing? It's so bunched. I mean, the one that, as Lowry kind of nods to his circle, telling him you're only 3 shots back all night. The thought he'll be having, of course, is there's a lot of traffic between me and 4 under. Van Brown, Scotty, I just wonder.
Like if Scotty holds the putt.
I mean, and that could happen. And then you've Rose, who you don't get a sense Rose is going to give it to anyone. Like you feel he'll hang around. You feel the same about Schauffele. And frankly, as for Tristan Lawrence, Sam Burns, and Russell Henley, who knows? And then I guess Billy Horschel, we think he'll go well, but again, it's hard to know. So I couldn't pick anyone.
I'd be slightly more bullish about Schauffele's chance. I don't think he's just hanging around. I think he's exceptional. He really is. He's playing some of the best golf around. Like if I was to put on,
who did you say, Fionn? Sorry, who?
Xander. For me,
Xander. Okay.
Not just hanging around. I think Xander has I think the winner will come from him or Scheffler.
Poor Nathan there is counting. How much am I going to win now here on Xander?
I won't lie, I've never had a week like this in terms of betting.
How do you mean?
I also have Lowry and Rose.
Oh wow!
So, dear.
But so Billy Horschel, I may well be cursing
him.
Yeah, it's like Tristan Lawrence would be the biggest shock of an Open probably since Todd Hamilton at Troon in 2004. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Brian Harman was, you know, very good golfer, and Darren Clark kind of came back from nowhere, but obviously had the talent. But Tristan Lawrence, you know, he's won his tournaments in South Africa. He's a, you know, obviously a decent European Tour player. Like Sam Burns played Ryder Cup last year. Like Sam Burns was 7 over after 11
I know.
in the first round.
Yeah.
7 over after 11.
Yeah.
So then
He was he had the phone in his hand, didn't he, to book his
Yeah.
flight home?
But then therefore he's one of those guys that's sneakily playing brilliantly.
Well,
He
exactly.
was tied 96th after day one.
Yeah.
What's the winning score? Let's start
Few
from
people
there,
asking that.
because I think that is the best way to find out.
Well, tell me what the weather is. Are we
Light
feeling-
wind, well, 13-mile-an-hour wind,
Gusts of
gusting up
20.
to
See,
20.
I haven't been able to figure out.
And is the wind
Forecast,
like it was yesterday, where it's the traditional Troon wind and
when it
into them on the
changes, when
back
it
nine?
moves, and sorry, I think I fell off there for a second. Yeah,
You're back now. Yeah.
I say it doesn't look like it's going to be quite what it was yesterday, but
No.
it depends which way the wind is blowing at a particular time of the afternoon.
Yeah, and which direction? I mean, do they get to the back nine and it's coming into them like it was yesterday, which is the traditional Troon wind, or are they getting a bit of help? So all of these factors are hard. It's it's really hard to predict the score.
I'm going to go to 6 under.
I think 6 under plays off. I think 7 under wins.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so 71, so 68. I mean, I think I'd agree with Peter. So you would think of Tristan Lawrence, although he wouldn't be the first person you think of, but of Lawrence, Burns, Henley, Schauffele, Rose, and Brown, only one of them has to shoot 3 under to get to 6. I think that feels likely. Again, that's to our lot of traffic point. So that means Shane, who, by the way, I just saw the stat, was third last in putting yesterday, the whole field. Third last. I mean, shocking. It deserted him more than we even thought, the eyes told us.
Would I be right in saying Scotty Scheffler was second last?
I mean, I wouldn't dispute it. You may well be. So if six is playoff, Shane would need to shoot 5 under today. That feels tall order. I have to say. I think he may be out of it in that sense. And then obviously Billy, look, does he shoot 2-3 under? It's very possible. So
easily, for sure.
Yeah. It just depends, though. You can manifest all you want, and then you're actually walking out on the first tee. It's like, crap, I manifested. I only visualized the 18th. I didn't visualize the first.
Like one of Horschel, Lawrence, Burns, or Henley is going to shoot 78 today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah. I've no feel for Lawrence.
Has Adam Scott got a chance? Has Justin Thomas? Like Justin Thomas has had one bad 9.
He does. He had a 44 on the
45.
A 45. Like, oh my god, yeah, one bad 9. Otherwise, he's had a pretty good tournament so far.
Yeah, but you're saying he has to shoot around a 6 under today. So
yeah, no, I just think
he's going to shoot a 65. Really?
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
I don't think so.
God,
it's beautifully balanced. I mean, not a clue. Like, not a clue. Would you guys, if Tristan Lawrence won, be a little bit like, not just because he's not a big name, but maybe any of those guys who got particularly lucky yesterday in the weather? I know they've had to play great golf, obviously, across the 3 days, and would certainly have to play well today under the pressure. But would it be unsatisfactory? Would you think? Just feels that we want elements to be a factor in golf, but that's pushing it a touch. There's borderline and asterisks there.
Well, yeah. I mean, you need a narrative, like to give us a sense of meaning. I mean, you're absolutely right. Look, if he won it, fair play to him. It'd be amazing for him. But I remember when Todd Hamilton won, and who cares? Except for Todd Hamilton and his family and his friends.
Thomas Bjorn might.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I saw something yesterday. Like the conditions have been different at different. Nothing probably as extreme as we saw yesterday afternoon. But Data Golf had a graph on Friday night about adjusted scores for the late early starters, and I think John Ram had the sixth best adjusted score, but was 8 shots off Shane Lowry because he on both days had managed to get the worst of the weather.
Yeah. Look, I get it. That's the Open. That's kind of the charm of it in some respects. But I don't know. I mean, it was just so acute yesterday. It was fairly glaring the way the Lawrence, Burns, Henley types crept up that leaderboard.
I just wonder, do they get to 6 under? Like, there's so many. Oh, it's a great golf course to watch. It's a proper. Oh, you can pick up a shot, but also you can have bogey, double bogey, triple bogey. Like Joaquin Neiman has had 2 quintuple bogeys.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, that's a lot.
That's a lot of shots.
That's a lot of shots. Wow. Ooh. Yeah.
Tell me this. We won't dwell on this. Rory McIlroy conceded after his Friday round that he may have a wind problem, which was very interesting. That has been an accusation that he has shot down routinely, hates that being said about him. And yet he conceded that in 2 of the majors this year, that Augusta round where Scotty Scheffler put on an exhibition next to him and he really struggled with his ball flight. And obviously Friday, he particularly struggled. He was like, yeah, I do have to go away and look at the fact that in 2 of the majors, the wind really, I couldn't handle it. And listening to a couple of people who were at the course, like there were times where it seems, on the Friday he came out, and maybe it was a Thursday. Anyway, maybe it was a Thursday. On the 3rd hole, he had 116 yards to the 3rd, and he stitched it. And McGinley was on commentary and was making the point that he had played, oddly enough, with Rory recently at some charity event, and he said McIlroy's wedge distance judgment was really, really good. And I thought, oh wow, okay, well, if he's in that space, then we're on here. But then listening to other people who followed him across the 2 days, there were times where he seemed to have 100 to 130 into greens and was hitting the ball higher than high.
So see the pull from 85 yards.
Well, I don't know if it was a pull or if it was wind or what's going on, but I did see it.
No, it was a pull. It was a horrendous pull.
In a way, I don't mind the pull here or there. It's why is the ball going so high in the air in those conditions?
Now, okay, Rory McIlroy's performances at the Open Championship over the last 10 years have been absolutely unbelievably good. 8 top 10s out of 10. Like, obviously hasn't managed to win, but he's a consistent performer in Open Championship.
That's what makes this so strange. I presume over the last 10 years he's had to navigate the wind. So
exactly. So
I would be strange this year.
This is me speculating. I'm not sure that I fully buy in the way that you never really believed Tiger Woods for years and years and years when he would tell you what was going on. It was like he wanted you to think a thing, and then the truth was maybe something entirely different. Whether he has a wind problem or not, I don't know. But I would wager that, like last week, Rory came out and it was almost like textbook sports psychology speak. He had what happened at Pinehurst, happened. I had a great time until I didn't. I'm moving on. Like, there isn't a sports psychologist in the world who doesn't tell you can't dwell on that thing. You have to be able to find a place for it and move on. And he said all of the things that suggested I'm moving on. I don't believe he has moved on at all. And I would not be shocked if at some point in the future you discovered that, not that he'd self-sabotage, but that the pain of where he was at Pinehurst hasn't ebbed at all, as far as I can tell. And I
think that's fair, right? I'm just going to jump in. I think that's fair. But
yeah, I think that missing the cut, it's almost as though is it the maddest thing in the world to think that I don't want to get anywhere near a position where I can feel that pain again?
Yeah, it's
right
possible.
Now.
It's possible.
And so
but can I just jump in? Can I just jump
sorry,
in?
Joe.
Look, I take the self-sabotage theory, and Harrington's a great man for pushing that. But there is no doubt he was going in with too much loft and too much height. And if it were just Pinehurst, go back to the Masters app, which I'm sure is still there, and watch that windy, it was either Thursday or Friday. Just go to the 9th and watch the second shot he hit in and the second shot Scotty Scheffler hit in. It's not like he handled windy conditions this season and then suddenly post Pinehurst there's a bit of self-sabotage. He himself said, I think I've got to face facts that at the Masters and the Open, I couldn't handle wind.
I mean, he has a high ball flight. He's there are so many anomalies. Is that he since he's come on tour, he is one of those. He's a target golfer. he hits a soaring high 5-iron, higher than almost anybody else, to accurate pin position, and has always struggled to get the ball kind of with that lower ball flight. But yet he performs at Open Championships like consistently. You know, he knows how to play links golf. So, I mean, I don't know.
He spoke about this in his pre-tournament press conference. I think we mentioned it, that like the two questions that come up at every Open Championship are, Tiger, do you still think you can win? And Rory, links golf, sort of back home for you. And Rory pointing out again, well, you know, I grew up in Hollywood. It was a parkland course, and I've always from a young age wanted to hit the ball really, really high. Now, I don't remember the exact quotes, but he was saying, you know, it wasn't necessarily with, well, this is going to work for me on the PGA Tour. This is the type of golf. That's how he liked to see his shots, was to hit it as high as possible. And was the stat on Friday that he had the highest trajectory of anybody on the postage stamp?
Jesus Christ.
Hit it higher than anybody. So, like, he's right. He acknowledged this in his pre-tournament press conference of, like, 90% of the golf is played on a different type of golf course. So, what does he actually take what he said post round seriously? Like, does he next year after the US Open take the month off again and say, you know what, I'm coming to Ireland for 3 weeks and I'm going to play everywhere. I'm going to play all these links courses. If the wind is blowing, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to dedicate myself to slightly changing what I do and my ball flight. And I play the Scottish Open, and I am going to be the guy who's in Lahinch. I'm going to be out in the island. I'm going to be in Portmarnock. You are going to find me everywhere trying to play and get experience of playing in these sort of conditions. I don't know. Does he make that level of commitment?
Well, could I? No, and Pete, obviously, with the three amateurs spouting nonsense here, I'm sure. But, like, can we just make the point as well? He does whatever it links and changing his game for links. It's windy in America, you know. I mean, you need to be able to flight the ball low. Like Scotty Scheffler at the Masters, like I keep going back to that example on the 9th because it was so side by side. Flighted one in there, and Rory ballooned it high into the right, up into the wind. It was eaten up. I mean, it's not just when he comes over here he's going to have to deal with that issue.
It's accentuated over here than it is in America because it's probably, you know, it's
colder
thinner air. And you still have to spin it all over there. You have to, you know, over here, you can let it run along the ground. But what I did notice this year was very few people actually played links golf before the Open. Like, I didn't hear of any Americans coming over to Ireland to play links golf before the Open, which is very unusual because they're normally all over Ireland, you know, playing in different places. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I asked around.
I don't think DJ came. DJ used to always be out in the island. Obviously, DJ's in a different part of his career right now. Paulina's in Saint-Tropez. So he's got other priorities.
I did ask a few people on different links golf courses that you would normally have seen Americans coming over to play, and none of them did. Now, whether that's okay, we're not going to change our game too much for this golf course and whatever happens. I don't know, but I get what you're saying, Joe. I really do. It's all about ball control, high, low, but the choice of club would question the shot that he was trying to play. You know, like, why use a 58 or, why not just chip a pitching wedge in there? The greens aren't that hard this week that the ball is jumping all over the place. So,
isn't Rory a fairly full throttle with all clubs kind of a swinger of a golf club? He's not really I'm chipping in a 9 here kind of guy.
I think he can be when he wants to be. Maybe he just wasn't 100% with his game and just said, right, this is what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Hard to know, really. Hard to know how he approached it. Like, we've seen him play that shot before. We've seen him play, as you said, his wedge game has improved, and it hasn't all been in the air. So,
can I, just in defense of, or as a counter argument, the shot at Augusta, and I agree with you, Joe, it really was demonstrative of two very different approaches. But Rory's argument afterwards is that Augusta got it. And that's just bad luck. And then the second point I would make is he lives in Florida. Florida, wind is a massive factor all over Florida. Like, I played in Florida and I'm always surprised. I mean, not to the same extent as it was at Troon, granted, this week. But wind is a constant factor that you have to play when you're playing any golf in Florida. And so living there, surely to God, like he's, it's not as if he's playing in like the desert conditions of Arizona all the time where there's nothing blowing at all, so he, surely he has a sense of playing wind.
Yeah, no, look, I think Rory McIlroy can do anything with a golf ball he wants. I just know over the Thursday and Friday, there was a lot of loft in his hand, and
there's a lot of loft,
a lot of high shots. Maybe as Pete says, the game wasn't feeling in such a good spot that he felt he could be hitting those flighted shots, and he just went back to something that's his orthodox main swing, and let's see what happens. But
or he just came into the week not really fully committed to trying to win, which seemed
well, that's the much bigger unknowable, isn't it? Which we wondered. Everything he spoke about with Pinehurst, there was that sense of, I'm just parking this thing and I'm not acknowledging it, and it happened, but I'm taking the positives. Now, whether that goes as far as sort of self-sabotage to keep himself out of the mix, it definitely, I think, contributed to the attitude on like the final 15, 16 holes, which he spoke about of, once was it on 4, he sort of checked out, whereas, you compare him to McIntyre or Neiman or even Homa on 18. But they're very different players in different stages of their career. Rory doesn't need to make the cut just on the number for the sake of it. Though, look at what Tristan Lawrence did. In fact, if ever there was a day for a third round backdoor top 10, yesterday was it. So, I see Chubby Chandler saying you should take 6 months out, which I'm sure we'll get a response from Rory then, telling Chubby Chandler to shut the hell up.
Or for Chubby to take 6 months out.
Chubby's got a book to sell.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
It's mad to think the next shot Rory McIlroy is going to hit at the British Open. It'll be the first tee at Port Rush.
Yeah, again,
it is. There was a good row on 5 Live on Friday, I think it was, between Mark Chapman and the now European senior player Andy Murray. And Andy Murray had taken this whole the media are ridiculous. The media just constantly biting at Rory. Rory has talent that 99% of us just don't have, blah, 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 blah. And Mark Chapman was really kind of taken aback at first. And then he came back with the obvious point, which is that, look, if Rory had his heyday 10 years ago, nobody'd be talking about him. But the fact is that this is a lad who wins FedEx Cups for fun, race to Dubai's, is a serial winner on tour. So the very fact that this is guys playing some of the best golf you'll see can't win a major is surely interesting in and of itself. And Andy Murray just wouldn't concede the point at all. It was actually very interesting to listen to.
If someone's going to pretend Rory's not interesting or they've no interest in how he's going at majors, then fair enough. You can tell yourself that, but I mean, it's just not the reality.
Yeah.
Come here, geez, Tiger gave it a good shot though. All the same, huh?
Monty was right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's a pity. I still kind of I haven't abandoned my theory on Wednesday's pod that actually this could be a slow burner and he's going to make, inter-county manager comes in, there's a young lad, and it's going, they haven't done much. It's going to take them 3-4 years to get up to speed to be where the other inter-county players are. I still think this could be a slow burn, and another 6 months of in the gym working out, he may well be able to practice more, and then ... we're kind of on. Obviously, hard to make the argument too loudly today.
Yeah. Now, Tiger Woods has obviously confounded all of us many, many times and has done things nobody ever thought was possible. But has anyone ever done that thing at 49 years of age?
No, it's true.
Actually, I think 2 or 3 years of good work behind me now, and I could really hit a new peak at 52.
Yeah, I find that increasingly,
Peter,
for guys,
I'm thinking that way. I'm actually thinking that way, Nathan. You just crushed me.
Realize what I said.
You just crushed my hopes.
Yeah, I find Tiger's pronouncements increasingly bizarre in relation to his own fitness levels. I don't he looks ripped. This is a guy who still goes to the gym, if not every day, on a way more frequent basis than the most of us. So
it's every day.
Yeah, but So I don't understand. Like, and then he, he's in the gym every day, but he can't ever practice his short game, or he can't play more than he does. And I'm sure he can't. I'm sure his body is just stopping him from. But like,
I stopped doing the gym and just actually walked around the place. Might he be better?
It's hard to know. We'd be out of our lane there. Like, it wouldn't be the first time he's put too much emphasis on the gym, but I do suspect he does need to build up muscle and supporting muscle for damaged areas. I tell you, I wonder, will he sit down and think about things? The odds of him winning another major are obviously minuscule at this stage. I wonder, will he think 15 majors, whether I win 15 or 16, not a huge difference. But I tell you what, if I could get to 83 wins, even though Sam Snead has a few, he beat the father and son at his local club on a Tuesday in there, it still stands as 82. It's recognized as 82. Obviously, no one's ever going to get near 82. I'd be sort of thinking, God, 15 and 83 sort of cements me arguably as the greatest, as opposed to 16 and still stuck in 82. Like, at least you own one record outright, and he's got a damn sight better chance of, obviously.
I don't think he needs to get to 83 to cement his.
No, I know, but
I know what
it'd be
you're
a nice
saying,
thing. It'd be nice for him to at least have one outright record. He's never going to be Jack at this stage, and it just feels wrong that he doesn't own the PGA Tour
overall
career
PGA
win.
Tour
It does.
Well, it is
It
wrong.
just feels wrong.
It is wrong.
It's so wrong.
Here's the thing.
But
So-
there's got to be like 5-6 tournaments with average fields that he could just target. Sure.
Well, I actually think, Joe, there's not that. Is that not the problem now? That with the signature events, which they've obviously made a special exemption to get him in, means the only tournaments he's going to be playing are the very best fields in golf. Now, the only thing that could maybe save him is if he goes back to his own tournament and brings it back to 10 players and says, you know what, this year I'm going to give some young guys a chance. Some guys you haven't heard of, the next generation.
Or the 17 other players that play the Hero World Championship, or whatever it's called. They all get together and go, listen, Tiger's the greatest of them all. Let's just give him this one. I shanked one.
Here's what I'm saying. If he wants my advice, next year, Tiger, instead of playing the Open, we go and play the Barracuda, and we keep playing the fucking Barracuda until you win it.
I was watching the Barracuda last night.
Wow.
Dear God. The scoring system is I quite like the scoring system.
Is there a team event? He should play the thing. Kick Larry off Rory's team. Let's get in there. Let's get to 83.
Just give Scotty Scheffler a shout.
I just think
listen,
there's
me and you
there's
at
something to
Zurich.
be said.
They have to play foursomes though on one of those rounds is the problem.
But that's the round where he really grinds and gives it his all. Like, I think, as as we said during the week, he peaks on a Tuesday at these tournaments now. He just needs to one good day, So look, who knows? I guess jury's very much out on Tiger. Kieran McKeown says Rory was hitting low bullets from the tee at the last major. Where were those shots this week?
Well, he spoke for 5 minutes in his press conference about that shot and how he'd been working on it and his rotation on the right-hand side and, building confidence that he could pull it off in a tournament setup. And as you say, it just never, certainly in the shots I saw, it never materialized.
Okay. We got to wind this up, fellas. We'll reconvene, obviously, during the week to discuss all in a bit more depth. So, Horschel 4 under, Lawrence, Burns, Henley, Schauffele, Rose, Daniel Brown all on 3. So that's a lengthy list on 3. So, I mean, let's imagine for a second Horschel goes out and bogeys the first. Basically, you've got 8 players on 3 under. And then you've Scheffler on 2, Lowry on 1. I think Adam Scott on even is definitely too far back. And I think, mad as it is to say, Lowry on 1 under, given all the traffic ahead of him, is just about within touching distance, even though it's 3 shots. So I can't pick. I don't feel strongly about a single person there, I have to say. I'll take your arguments on Schauffele. For me, this is just wide open. Does anyone?
Fionn, you said
Schauffele.
writing off the level pars. I'm just watching on Sky Go in the background, and like it looks like it's blowing a bit of a gale there again.
Oh, is it?
Like it looks difficult. So I wonder if somebody is going to get to 6 under, or if
it's a hold
3,
on
4
job.
under par might actually end up winning this, which then Scott, Thomas are very much back in.
Yeah,
I'm amazed, lads. I'm just looking up now. I have no bets on. So look, but Paddy Power is saying Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele are 7-2 joint favourites.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Scotty Scheffler's 2 shots off the lead.
I know.
He's 1 shot off
Yeah.
some other players.
But they have Billy
Best
Horschel
player.
5-1.
Yeah,
If
I
Scheffler
actually think
starts
this.
holding some putts, like Jesus, some of his play yesterday was even before the weather got really bad. And you're just like he was giving himself birdie chance after birdie chance and just couldn't hold any of them.
I think this is one of those where, you know, the way the bookies in every, like, in rugby and GA, it's mad how they can pick the handicaps. You know, like, they just know it's going to be an 8-point game somehow. It's extraordinary. I think this is one of those occasions where even they're sitting around and all their boffins are looking at each other with this one going, I have no idea. This
Where are we going with this?
Like, Scotty, Xander, yeah, just let's not give anyone a break on those guys, so give them low prices. But I mean, Billy Horschel 5s is like, you know, leading the tournament in these 5s is mad.
It's going to make for a nice afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Any other business? TV coverage generally good. Why can't they give the old camera a wipe here and there?
The person who's got away the most this week is...
Oh, hang on. Let me guess.
Got away. What do you mean got away?
Has he got away with it?
Got away with it, yes.
Who would Peter not like?
Jordan Spieth?
No.
You
said it in your text messages. Mark Rowe.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, for the love of God.
Just
Mark.
look at Tiger's eyes. You can tell he's on full of painkillers.
That's being killed.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a slanderous thing to say. It's just wild. Like, there's a shot of Tiger. And
if I had said it, there would be, what's going on?
I know, but like, it's mad, but it's not slanderous. I mean, he didn't say, like, I'm not going to say things that you could say about Tiger and painkillers now, but he just, I think you're entitled to presume Tiger could be on painkillers to get through a round. But to just say, like, there's like a shot of Tiger 20 meters away and Rose, like, look at his eyes, you can just tell he's on painkillers. I can just imagine whoever was beside him just being like, next Lowry on 13. We'll move on. No, it's been grand. They had a studio. The Open. They on the one.
They have the Open Zone.
Yeah,
that's all.
But they're not going back to Nick Dye sitting with people very often, aren't they? Not. He's just in his commentary booth.
Nick Doherty, no.
Nick Doherty, sorry, no. Nick Doherty.
No, I haven't heard much of McKinley on this week. As you say, he comes in, does a couple of inserts here and there. He's obviously just doing American coverage.
The American coverage, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fellas, enjoy the golf. Everybody enjoy the golf. We will talk to you later this week. So, Fionn, thank you. Nice to have you home, Fionn.
Thanks, guys.
Good man. Rest up. Peter Lowry, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nathan Murphy, thank you.
Cheers, Joe.